Welcome to the Knightline Podcast, your source for UCF football and former UCF player information. All right, Night Nation, this is Andrew Phegley, and this is episode number 15, and we're coming to you from the 1148 studios, and to my left, as always, is...
It is Troy Ondrizek. Thank you for listening.
All righty, well, we're here after a debacle of a game against UConn this past Saturday. That's the only way I can really explain it. UCF 29, UConn 37, which, debacle is the only way that I can explain it right now. That is my word of the day.
I have several words. None of them FAA approved.
Yeah. So, it was a bad game.
Dude, I'm brokenhearted, man.
I am too.
I feel like my chick just dumped me, dude. It's like a punch to the prostate.
It is. It's bad. Everything from the interceptions to the drops to the coaching to everything else.
We lost every phase of this game.
Yeah.
All 4 phases.
Yes.
Offense, defense, special team, coaching.
Yeah. So, where do we go from here, I guess, is what one of our main topics will be.
The only way to go down from here is to lose every game and get demoted to the FCS.
Yeah. Well,
this was the statistically worst-ranked team in the FBS.
Right. One of them. If not the.
They barely beat Stony Brook.
Yeah.
Stony Brook put up a better fight than we did against UConn.
Yeah, I don't understand what happened, to be honest with you. I mean, I honestly, my heart tells me that it's a coaching problem, to be honest with you. And it can be debated.
What?
And
No, let me ask you this. Why does your heart tell you that this is a coaching problem?
Because our players were not prepared, and our players' heads weren't in the game, and that is the job of the coach to do that.
Now, aren't those players autonomous human beings, and they're able to, be responsible for their own actions or inactions?
They are, but that's why you have a coach.
Well, the coach can't run the actual plays for them.
That's true. The coach can give them the plays, though, to run, which I don't think all of them were appropriate either.
So the execution was absolutely on the players.
Absolutely,
so they are culpable for some of this.
Yes. Yes. I'm not saying that they're not. It's not their ball game.
Like Luke Adams standing there watching the play as he does nothing.
Right.
Is not Tyson Summers' fault. It's Tyson Summers' fault for putting him in the game.
Right. Play calling, I think, we had some issues with play calling. We had some issues with, on both sides of the ball. But overall, I believe that the players... it is the job of the coaches to have the players prepared no matter what the weather is, no matter what the temperature, no matter what. It's the coach's job.
All right, then how did the coaches fail them here? What did you see where you can just attribute directly to the coaching staff?
The biggest thing for me is preparation and discipline.
Now, they trained for the weather.
Right. Supposedly they had a bucket drill or something like that.
Play with the wet footballs, work on grip.
Right.
In Orlando, it's hard to work on cold.
Right.
Unless you practice at RDV.
Yeah.
So, the game plan.
I'm not one of the ones that's saying that George Leary should go right now, but I know that there are those people out there that are saying, as he says, if you have 2 bad days. I'm not one of those people that are saying that, but people are bringing it up, so I wanted to talk about it a little bit.
It's not entirely a completely,
People make fun of all the people on the boards that talk about this and bring it up,
It is a small minority, but they, when you have something with such strong rhetoric, it seems to resonate and grab legs, and it seems to seem like more the fan base are echoing their sentiments as opposed to it just being a small group of pissed off people.
Right.
Now, did we fail them in coaching? Absolutely. And in UConn, Bob Diaco did an excellent job of setting up their offense, running their Wild Husky, which is a dumb name, but it's a very efficient method of offense against us. And what gave them somewhat of the blueprint for this? Greg Ward coming in for Houston?
Yep.
Completely changed that game around.
Yep.
Something that we, George O'Leary touched on, that we didn't plan for this type of offense. Yet, this is the offense that we've had the most issues with from previous experience with mobile quarterbacks with Matty Mock and Greg Ward. And we did a great job on P.J. Walker, but we didn't prepare for this with Deshaun Fox.
Yeah, P.J. didn't show up, and that's why we did a lot better.
P.J., like Justin Holman, is a rhythm quarterback. And we didn't let P.J. get into rhythm.
Right.
Just like we didn't let Justin Holman get into rhythm in this game by run.
I think he got into rhythm, but his rhythm was to throw interceptions and to not.
Two of them weren't his fault.
Well, I think personally all interceptions are the quarterback's fault. Because
did you watch Wes Welker's drop last night for an interception? Not all interceptions, or even Jameis Winston when
they all count in the stats against. They all count in
stats, but when the wide receivers run the wrong route or break off their route early, or people don't pay attention, or if it bounces off an offensive lineman's helmet,
this is true.
What would happen with Nick Patty?
This is true,
and we'll touch on that later. All right, this whole thing is just a monstrosity of a terrible execution on every aspect of our team in this game. We should have never, ever even come close in this game, let alone lose to UConn. So, let's talk about the offense. How did we fail miserably, and what are the few bright spots we saw?
Well, there were definitely a couple bright spots. Number one bright spot that I think of is that our offensive line actually looked quite a bit better, to be honest with you, at certain points, not the entire game.
Was that the level of competition, or are we starting to see something from them?
I honestly think, because it's been week after week, it has gotten a little bit better. So I think that we're starting to see a little bit of gelling. They've moved him around. This was the 8th offensive line to start. It's been different every time. Maybe we're getting someplace, though. Maybe we're getting someplace with it. Maybe they've got starting to get the right players out there, or maybe they've got the right players out there, because there can't be too many more players left.
I know,
and too many more combinations, to be honest with you.
Are we done throwing starting lineups against the wall and hoping one of them sticks?
I hope so.
No, there was a bright spot. We did have better blocking. We were able to really seal off the edge for a stand back to bounce to the outside, where we found a lot of success. And they are a defense that tries to seal the edge to force you towards the interior of the defense, where you have more bodies and they're more experienced players.
Standback definitely was a positive.
He was a partial positive to me.
He had 141 yards
rushing,
and a career high of 28 rushes. Tied his career best with 2 touchdowns.
This was his first ever 100-yard game against an FBS school.
That's true.
In his career.
That's true. And it was 141 yards.
He did an excellent job running the ball.
Yeah.
He just...
And
he's like Edward Scissorhands when you throw it to him, though, on a screen.
Right.
So he gets a partial, but more than half. He did an excellent job running. He's starting to see things more. He's starting to set up plays more, and the offensive line is starting to sustain their blocks more. They're starting to know what to expect from when Standback runs, and what to expect from their fellow gentlemen on the offensive line. So that starts to take some of this black cloud over my mood away. It's a silver lining.
I made a bunch of notes during the first half.
And you didn't chuck your phone against the wall after
and then
that?
I pretty much started after halftime, and I just, I think that's really where it went down.
Where you stopped from being an analyst to just a pissed-off fan?
Yes. So at my notes, obviously Joey Grant played. I said Standback was running hard at the start of the game. I believe that we should have kicked on the first drive instead of trying to go for the...
Take the points early. What you do is you put points on the boards, put confidence in your team.
Absolutely.
Take confidence away from the other team, and then it actually, gives you better situations as the game progresses, where they actually have to change the play calling, and same with you. Take the points, especially in terrible conditions. Yes, you were moving the ball, but you don't always move the ball. We don't have a 100% success rate. Give us some points. Get Sean Moffitt. I know he's been struggling, but not from that far. Give him some confidence. You have the opportunity. And they had 6 straight games where they gave up a touchdown on the opening drive. They gave up no points to us.
Yeah, how many games has Moffitt had a blocked field goal in consecutively now? Is this 3 or just 2? Because we're even having problems on special teams kicking field goals.
You know, it was Justin Tukes who just pretty much cheered their guy on as he ran by him to block that field goal.
Right. So I'm not, blaming that on Moffitt. I'm blaming that on special teams and honestly the special teams coach. We did not have Rennell Hall, which
was a glaring weakness.
It was
on kick returns.
It was absolutely. Yeah.
What about some of the J.J. Wharton was a big positive for me.
Yeah, J.J. Had a great game actually. I believe that he had
he had like 11 receptions, didn't he?
Yeah. The 77-yard touchdown, I believe,
which was primarily
73 yards, but it was the longest pass of Holman's career, and J.J. Wharton, that was the longest reception of his career. And J.J. just, he is the hardest playing player on that entire field, period, every week.
You could, what about Terrence Plummer? What about Josh Reese? He's one of those guys where there's just not enough of him. He puts hard work with, substantial ability together, and this is what we get. That was about 5-yard pass from Holman and a 68-yard play for Wharton after the fact. That was all JJ for the most part. It was. All he needed to do was throw the ball to himself. That's what was missing.
He had 11 receptions for 178 yards, one shy of a career best set at Temple last year. So 1 yard shy.
And you hate to burn this type of effort on a loss.
Yeah. I mean, the numbers, honestly, some of the numbers shouldn't be a loss.
Yeah, well, tell Al Gore that because he got more votes than George Bush, but guess who was president?
Right. Well,
so numbers aren't everything.
Yeah, we won't get into politics on this show. Tomorrow is election day, by the way, in Florida here. So if you're, and maybe other places, I'm sure.
All right. Talk about from one talented NFL-bound receiver to another. Rashad Perryman.
Yeah, Perryman did not have a good day at all.
It was the Mizzou game all over again.
It was.
He cost us, possessions, turnovers, drops, killed drives. Rashad is an exceptionally talented young man.
He made some bad choices, like pushing off right in front of the referee.
That some of those calls for the referees were.
Yeah, they didn't have a good game either.
I mean, apparently this is glorified two-hand touch in the cold weather, and the American referees haven't had a good season.
Yeah.
The loss is not on them. It is completely on us.
I think Perryman personally needs to try to control the ball a little bit better. He does not have good ball control. As good of a receiver he is, sometimes he's not very good at catching the ball.
It's about focus.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an eye issue. Andre Johnson had that issue coming out of Miami, where he hit the league where he actually had imperfect vision, and sometimes he just wasn't able to gauge the ball as it came to him. It also could be focus where he's anticipating the yards after the catch or the hit, even though he's a big man trying to get that extra yardage, trying to win the game on that particular play, and then you just lose track of the ball.
He did stretch his streak to 26 games with a catch, and that's tied for 8th longest streak in UCF history, and he also hauled in his 5th TD pass of the season in the fourth quarter, and that stretched his consecutive games with a TD to 3.
I mean, from a team that under George O'Leary, which isn't always pass heavy, that's a pretty good accomplishment. Now, he's not happy with this performance. None of the team's happy with this performance, I'm sure.
No.
So
and they shouldn't be.
No, they shouldn't. And, these guys are going to put in some work, and I don't expect to hear, lives are going to change type rhetoric. But they have 2 weeks to prepare, and this is going to be eaten on them for that entire time off.
Yeah.
And sticking to the offense, how about the man that runs everything, Justin Holman? He had some decent numbers if you don't look at the interceptions. But as I was touching on earlier, he's a rhythm quarterback. At this point in his career, with 7 starts, not a ton of reps, he doesn't necessarily have that mental part of the game he needs. There's a lot of things he hasn't seen. He is probably just trying to be the man and trying to do everything on his own as he's trying to do, and he might be feeling some of the pressure, knows the hook is coming, possibly, and is forcing some throws, and he trusts his arm more than he trusts his reads. And, right now his reads are very imperfect. So, a couple of those interceptions were on him. Some were on his receivers. There were some interceptions he should have had. Joshua Reese saved him from an interception by wrestling the ball away. It was a tough game, but Charlie Taff and the play calling doesn't put him in a position to succeed all the time. And it's when we work the slants and the screens and the quick plays early, the down and outs, is when Holman really starts to become a really good quarterback. We see what we want out of him when we get him involved early.
Right. And, everybody had a good first quarter. But then after that, it was pretty much downhill.
Oh, everyone was cold. Everyone was miserable.
Yeah.
They weren't in sync. The play calling was, I've heard people reference it as cowardly. It's not cowardly. It's just uninventive. We have to use some creativity. When you have a couple successful runs, put it over the top. I know in this type of weather, throwing the ball and ball security is a big thing, but you can't be so predictable.
Yeah. You mentioned, we both mentioned special teams earlier. We had definitely some issues with Akins.
We've had issues with Akins, on drops, and he had that one really nice return against Penn State. But he has gone
To be honest with you, though, this is a coaching thing as well, because you coach your players and you teach them what to do in certain situations. It's called situational awareness. He was not aware of what to do in the end zone when he, touched a ball.
When you're losing, everyone's trying to win the game on their own, and it's a team game.
Yeah.
But one guy can lose the game for you with a boneheaded play.
Yeah.
We had multiple boneheaded plays, and why is Akins? He's not a threat to take it to the house on kickoffs. Get Jackie Williams in there. I know he's got a reputation for being a bit spoiled, but he's also got a reputation for having some wheels and some elusiveness, so why not try to take advantage of that?
Right. Well, hopefully Hall will be back, having 2 weeks off.
But you put 2 returners in the back. Why don't you put someone else? Wharton, he's been dynamite on punt returns.
Right.
You don't want to overuse someone, expose them to injuries, but something needs to give. You need to have someone who has a bit more experience, as such a integral part of the game. Akins, it seems like for all the physical attributes that he has, and he will develop into the type of player down the road, I don't have any worries about that, but I'm a little worried about where his mindset is right now and focus on his football IQ as opposed to just being out there and being a player or a participant even.
Yeah, you're right.
Defensive side of the ball.
Let's hear real quick from George O'Leary and hear what he had to say about the game.
Really didn't play very smart football out there in any phase, offense, defense, or special teams. And, basically I thought Connecticut took advantage of our mistakes, and, that's what the game was. It was a game of mistakes as far as I could see. And, you can't do the things we did out there. Just foolish with the ball. I don't know how many picks there were, 4 or 5? Four. And, you can't do how many drops. You just can't do those things. So, tough game, but you have to regroup and get ready for the next one.
One of the things that I don't like right off from that right there was George O'Leary. Oh, well, start next week and we'll see what happens.
Well, sometimes you have to do that with a loss. Like, listen, this was a complete loss. You got to just cut it loose and move on.
I would like to hear him take a little bit more of the responsibility of debacles like this happening, to be honest with you. I agree
with that, and I'm not saying he hasn't done it behind closed doors, but When has he ever been, super open with the media?
Yeah. So, and that was right after the game, so, that's reporters' mics right up in your face, and I'm sure he was wanting to say things that couldn't be said in front of microphones and all that stuff, but
the coaching staff is totally culpable for this loss.
So, defense we were going to talk about.
Defense. UConn hasn't had much of an offense at all. They started to get things together on broken plays against ECU, big plays that were just tackling was an issue. Our tackling was an issue. Our angles are an issue. We didn't get as much pressure as we did. Jordan Ozer writes, he put himself in bad situations when just keep the ball in front of you. Oh, let me try to jump her out. Oh, they went over top of me. Or pass interferences on 3rd and 20.
Offensive pass interferences.
We had a physical and mental lapse in this game.
Yeah.
And part of the, I touched on preparing for the Wild Husky, and I'm not saying you should have prepared exactly for the Wild Husky, that's what they were going to run, but try to prepare for some mobility, because that's what we struggle with. I said from the beginning that Terrence Plummer, what's hurt his draft stock is the fact that he doesn't have that lateral mobility, and we need someone like that. And that's, to a point, Troy Gray has been solid with that, but he's not a track runner. And I don't want to be down on our linebackers because those are some gritty guys who make plays game after game, especially Terrence. But if there is a knock on Terrence, is that he doesn't have that sideline-to-sideline speed. And we did nothing to prepare ourselves for this type of offense. Chandler Whitmer's not going to run for 40 yards a game, let alone 100. But you have to expect something. You have to expect something from UConn that literally has nothing else to lose in this game. Why not try something? Why not a flea flicker or a few, different type of Statue of Liberty plays, just as a reference? But, that type of offense to try to find some success against a defense like UCF. They put up 3 points against Tulane, who has a decent defense, but, they barely. It was just poor preparation by the coaching staff and poor execution. And we've had some personnel issues. By putting in Luke Adams, I'm sure that kid's a fantastic, scrimmage or, workout player per se, but he does not even come close to appearing in a game.
Yeah. One of the things that gets me the most is we had 429 yards of offense in this game. What if we had all those interceptions and turnovers back?
We put our defense in a bad situation, and they got tired. They were on the field for an extensive amount of time. They were cold. They were miserable. They were starting to get down and out. They weren't making the plays, and that just everything builds and it snowballs. And then UConn got some confidence, and then we missed tackles over and over on Fox, and that was it. It was one big play after another suddenly, and we started to really buckle down in the fourth again, but that was just too little too late.
Yeah, speaking of time of possession, it was 30 minutes and 21 seconds for us overall and 29 minutes and 39 seconds for them. Not that big of a difference, but in the first quarter, we had 10 minutes, 10 seconds. They had 4 minutes, 5 seconds, 50 seconds. In the second quarter, we had 8 minutes and 47 seconds.
Are you telling me we went down each quarter?
Yes, except for the fourth quarter. But the second half, we were owned by time of possession because our offense
we had 11 and a half out of 30 minutes.
Yes.
A little over a third.
9 minutes and 59 seconds they had in the third quarter, and then 8 minutes 37 seconds in the
We gave them excellent field position. We gave them momentum by turning the ball over.
We didn't convert third downs.
We gave up dumb pass interference on offense and defense. There's, the bright things to say is the offensive line got a little better. Stanback ran the ball a little better. And we better learn from this. That's where we are moving forward.
They also had 10 points off of turnovers, and we had 7. So
we had that one fumble that Terrence Plummer recovered.
Yeah,
it was. This team still hasn't developed identity 2/3 of the way into the season. They don't play consistently. And, there's things that they're struggling to reach for. And, I expect to play a little up, a little down. This is, I gave it a 42-7. We were going to smash them, and I've been very off on scores, but not on results. This, to me...
I never, ever thought that this was coming, to be honest with you. This was the one game that there's no way...
Well, SMU, I feel that way, too.
Right. Well, there's more than one, but out of all the rest of them, this was the one that this should have never happened. It was unfathomable that this would happen, and it did happen. What do you know about the worst losses in UCF history?
That's what I was going to step into. To me, this is the worst loss in UCF history. There are definitely some good contenders. There's FIU in 2011. There's UAB in 2011. There's, 07 when we won the conference championship. USF crushed us. There's a lot of bad losses, but the ineptitude of UConn as a team, combined with the fact we had never lost in conference, we are starting to develop into a team that can win this conference this year, coming off, double-digit wins in several of the past seasons, and into the program that we've grown into, playing against UConn, which is just bad. It's like being a high school senior and getting into a fight and getting your ass kicked by a second grader.
Yeah.
It should not have happened. For one, you shouldn't have been in a fight. Two, a second grader shouldn't own you. And this is what happened with UConn. We've had, like I said, we've had some bad losses. Some of the, we had bad seasons when we lost against UTEP and UAB in 2008. The UAB game, we weren't going bowling. We got shut out at home. We had given up on the season, and it showed.
I would think Pittsburgh in 2006, a home blowout, 52-7, probably would rank up there.
But that's Pitt. That's not
right.
UConn. I mean, we lost to UConn, who barely beat Stony Brook.
2006, we also lost to Tulane. Yeah. 2004, Buffalo, Ball State in 2004.
Those are all bad losses.
But this one, we were coming into it. We have not lost a game in the entire existence of the American Conference, which was, a year and, what was it?
A year and a half. 11 games.
We 11 games, yeah. So
this is worse than, Tyson losing than Buster Douglas. Sure, Douglas was a 42-1 dog then, but the man was a very talented fighter when he wanted to be. UConn's not a very talented team when they want to be, and they want to be talented. This is their first win against an FBS school since December of last year.
Yeah. It's...
So I officially chalked this up, in my opinion, as the worst loss in UCF history. And it's just a bad loss. So, what do you do after a loss?
Well, hopefully they get their acts together and come out and put a really, real hurting on the next team.
And as a fan base whose emotions rise and fall like the breath of the program, you just got to move on from here. So it's time, I've done enough complaining.
Yeah.
I've been angry for long enough. It's Monday night. It's time to be happy.
Yeah.
So that was a terrible loss, UConn. Terrible loss.
Speaking of being happy, the rest of the American this week, Cincinnati beat Tulane 38-14. Tulsa lost to Memphis 40-20. And Houston beat USF. This is probably the best news of the entire week. Houston beat USF 27-3. And then Temple, out of nowhere, out of complete nowhere, after losing to us a week ago, goes out and beats ECU. We'll
touch on the Cincy game first.
Yeah. 20-10, by the way, Temple over ECU.
Since he started, Gunnar Kiel got injured again. He has those sore ribs, which as a quarterback, that's tough, man. Anyone touches you there, it's hard for those things to heal. But Munchie and is this kid's nickname.
Yeah.
Local boy.
I watched this game, actually.
He looked pretty good.
Yeah, he did. He was coming back from a pretty bad injury last year, and they talked to his mom and everything on ESPN, and he did a great job. He's from New Orleans, so it was big for him. He was definitely inspired and played a great game. He is definitely the dual threat type quarterback.
He did a solid job, and Tulane had Tanner Lee back over Nick Montana, who couldn't hit a wide open anything.
Right.
And their defense, which is what they have to hold on to, just wasn't there, and it was a solid win for Cincinnati, which kind of annoys me to say because some of their guys on our boards are just more annoying than Ches. It's just you want them to go away, just shut up and go away. And then they win, you're like, crap, we lost to UConn, and these guys win.
Yeah,
screw them. Tulsa, Memphis.
Yep.
Did you watch that?
I did not get to see that one.
I saw about half of it, and then I recorded the other half. Because the other half of my relationship wanted to watch cop shows. She was tired of football.
She wanted to watch cop shows.
Yeah. She's like, what's on the DVR? I want to watch on DVR. I'm tired of football. And so I was like, all right, I'll take record and finish this off. But Memphis is a solid football team. Justin Fuente really has that team coming together. There's talk of him. Fire George O'Leary. What about Justin Fuente? That's not a bad option. Look what he's done in Memphis. What can he do in Orlando? There's a lot less crime in Orlando.
There is.
There's also...
but there's not any good barbecue in Orlando. If anybody knows of any, let me know, please.
To the worst barbecue place yesterday.
Really?
The worst I've ever had.
So you went to Four Rivers?
No, worse.
Sonny's?
Worse.
Really? Worse than Sonny's?
Yeah.
Ooh.
In my entire life of being a barbecue connoisseur, this place was so pitiful. I just stopped eating. They asked me, wanted to hand me a box. I said, no, I want none of this. I took 3 bites of the mac and cheese, and it was pathetic.
Really? That's
and
like
I thought
one
about
thing
stopping
that you
there.
have to have at a
and quality baked beans.
Yeah. But mac and cheese is really pretty important.
And if you screw up mac and cheese, stop cooking.
And it's hard to screw up mac and cheese, to be honest.
Literally,
with you.
4-year-olds make it.
You can make it in a box, and it's probably
Much
better than this was.
I've often thought about stopping here on my way home from a game, where the old Woodies used to be, off of 434 there in Oviedo.
Right.
Now, Bonfires.
It was bad.
I give them a negative 10 out of a scale of 0 to 10.
Oh, wow.
Never will I go there again.
Wow. Yeah, I know where you're talking about. Well, I won't even try it.
Service was great.
People were nice.
People were great and
Wow.
nice, but...
Yeah, but being nice and good service does not make good barbecue by any means.
That's a true story. All right.
Anyway.
Going off to probably the most impressive game, and I got to really put this out there to Houston. You're welcome. If it wasn't for us, Greg Ward wouldn't be playing.
Yeah. And Ward's pretty much the starter there now.
He's entrenched.
O'Korn is warming the bench.
And he's probably crying about it.
Oh, I'm sure. He'll probably want to transfer. Maybe he can transfer to USF.
They're pretty pretentious down there. a lot of crime there too.
Yeah.
But this was a very solid performance by Houston, really putting things together. Have an offense that doesn't turn the ball over. Greg Ward is growing each game as a quarterback, not just as a runner who happens to throw the ball like Jeff Godfrey did. Now we're all on the even playing field record-wise in the conference, though we have that very important win against them. Houston does just find a way to lose to us. They're 1-5 against us. It's really nice, and it's starting to look like our best win so far this season. Much better than the BYU game. So if it's really Houston's looking like our best win, and in a win that almost didn't happen, thanks to the strip, the fumble. We were very fortuitous in that aspect. So, but we really set up the. I wonder how many games they would lose if O'Korn was still in there, if he had found success against us. You never know. And then ECU and Temple. That was a game that Temple controlled the pace throughout. PJ Walker did find his rhythm. I was wondering what their mettle was after 2 wins last year, and definitely an improved team this year. what type of football team are they? Are they just improved, physically and athletically, or are they improved mentally as well? And this game against ECU definitely showed that going forward, Temple's going to be a team. They're not recruiting great, but Pennsylvania has a lot of talent in the New York area, and Temple is putting themselves in a position that they're finally past the Al Golden years, and they have something coming up. And I like to see other teams in our conference, not named USF and now Cincinnati, and do good.
I didn't get to see this ECU Temple game because I think it was during the UCF game, right?
I didn't watch a ton of it either because I was watching our whatever you wanted to call that monstrosity
debacle. So, what happened in this game? How did ECU lose to Temple?
Temple stayed disciplined.
Yeah,
they were able to keep.
ECU only scored 10 points. Is half of their team hurt, or
ECU is the American version of Clemson?
Yeah,
Clemson's soft.
Yeah,
ECU's soft.
Well, we saw this happen, and we saw this coming. Because obviously
the performance against UConn
kind of maybe showed Temple some things. I think it showed. I watched it a little bit, and I saw some things that
I saw bad plays and lethargy on behalf of ECU. I did not see UConn doing a lot of things for themselves in that game.
Right. I saw a soft defense though, for sure.
For ECU. ECU has talent. They have speed. That spread offense. Shane Carden is a good quarterback.
Yeah.
But if you got to punch someone in the mouth, are they going to hit you back, or are they just going to say, screw it? Yeah. I didn't sign up for this.
Right.
ECU kind of did that. ECU and UCF losing, or even one of us losing this week, kind of paves the way for Marshall if they don't lose to their FCS-style opponents in the terrible, terrible Conference USA. They have the Access Bowl.
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty much. I think that whole Access Bowl thing is pretty much gone.
For us right now, absolutely. We can still play for the conference title.
I think if we get things together, I don't see us not being able to win the conference title. I don't see that happening. I like I said last week, I am much more confident about beating ECU, and now I'm even much more confident about beating ECU.
Even after that UConn game.
If we show up.
Or we'll show up physically.
Well, I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about mentally and, just having everything together and being there.
Now, who does ECU have that they could run a wild night type offense? Who's athletic behind the center? I mean, Shane Carden... he's mobile like Dan Marino was. So, if they stay to that, and this is George O'Leary football, George O'Leary football is excellent against your old-fashioned, prototypical style football. So you have a drop-back quarterback, we're going to find success against them. When you have your more athletic guys outside of the Temple P.J. Walker game, we tend to struggle. Now, that's also the same to be said of our offense. 3 runs, 3 yards, and a cloud of dust, that's what we do, run. Well, we have bad weather. Well, it's harder to fumble the ball than to throw interceptions. Let's run, and you become too predictable, and that's the same thing with Charlie Taft. So if we're going to beat ECU, we're going to have a better play calling. I've said this multiple times. There's been detractors. There's been people who agree. It doesn't matter. This is the truth. We need better play calling. We need to put Justin Holman into rhythm early for him to find success throughout the game.
Or, to be honest with you, get him out of there. Maybe he needs to
disagree.
I know you do.
Wholeheartedly.
I know you do. I think after the interception after interception after interception, though, they maybe should have at least, like O'Leary has preached all year long, why didn't he come off at least for a series to see what was happening?
Who's going to back him up? This Hobbit?
Yes,
we have an athletic Hobbit. We don't have an offense where we run an athletic quarterback who has bootlegs and stuff. We don't do that. If we did, Nick Patty can find some success.
Right.
Nick Patty can't see over a chain link fence. How is he going to throw the ball over the offensive line?
You're right.
And then what are we going to burn Tyler Harris's red shirt? Terrible idea. But
I didn't say that.
I know, I'm just saying, but not out of the realm of possibility, given the fact that we burned Kyle Israel's red shirt for one game.
Yeah.
We burned Stephen Moffat's red shirt. I mean, it's the future looks good at the quarterback position. Holman has the ability to grow into an excellent quarterback, but right now you have to coddle him like he's a toddler.
But when he's having such a horrible game, maybe a reality check and getting him off onto the sideline to look at what's happening a little bit, to actually maybe he's responded after that. The times that it has happened, I guess the one time that it happened, he responded to it.
It's not like he's not coherent to the fact that he threw the ball to the other team.
No, I know that.
And he has enough football sense to know that that's a bad thing and that he wants to do better next time.
Right.
The thing is that it snowballs because he tries to do more.
Right.
Instead of just, listen, I threw an interception. That happens. It does. Move on. You might dwell on it a bit. Yeah. And that's a maturity aspect that we need to help him get over. Pulling him from the sideline doesn't always happen. You know, kids tend to pout if that happens. Not always what we want to see.
Right. Okay.
Speaking of interceptions and growing as a quarterback, what about UCF North?
Well, Blake had a better game, I think, this week. I don't know if I could call it good.
No, they lost, but I think it was his best game as a pro.
Yeah.
You know, he had a terrible interception, but
his
had a couple
touchdown
touchdowns.
to interception ratio was actually in the positive this time. He actually threw 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. He still does lead the NFL in interceptions.
He has 13.
He also, this is an interesting note, supposedly he's popular with the ladies. This is what I hear. The Orlando Sentinel reports today that he is popular with the ladies, and his jersey is the number 1 jersey for women that buy a NFL player's jersey.
So has he replaced Brett Favre?
I don't know. He may have, but he is the number 1 as far as the rookies anyway. I guess I don't know. I'll have to look back at that article to see exactly what the numbers was, but the headline was Blake Bortles. Here, I'm going to find it. Troy, talk about something just for a second here. You can say something about this.
Listen, I'm actually proud of they're starting
to
pull the reins on him a little bit. All
Jaguars quarterback Blake Bortles is a real ladies' man, report says. It goes on to say, in the Sunshine State, his jersey is the number 1 jersey among women in the 50 states. The only other 2, Sammy Watkins in New York and Johnny Manziel in Ohio, are the other ones. But he leads 50 states of women buying his jersey. Good for Blake. Good for Blake. I think that's awesome. If whatever, if you lead the interception capital of the world in Jacksonville, you might as well sell your jerseys to ladies.
That's an interesting correlation.
I know. I don't really have anything here. I just thought
he's got a pretty good. Like I was saying, they're pulling in the reins on the offensive bit, doing a little more dinks and dunks, and every once in a while going deep. He throws a nice deep ball. It's just he needs.
I was watching something. It was like a NFL.com thing, and I think it was Dion that was talking, and he was just pointing out he had all these passes. I think it was one of the games a couple weeks ago, maybe the Dolphins game. Every interception that he threw, he was definitely just staring down the receiver. And he did have some problems with that here.
Every quarterback does. Right.
But in this case, he's definitely, just like Holman, he's trying too hard. And because he's the only thing,
But that's not the case with Holman.
Right.
He's got some talented receivers.
Right. I'm not saying that, but as for Blake has some talented people around him that have
Alan Hearns has really turned into a good wide receiver, and Robinson.
And Deshaun, is it Deshaun?
Denard Robinson turned into a pretty good running back.
Denard, he is. I'm sorry.
I hate not to be saying Storm Johnson's name, But Bernard Robinson has turned into a quality running back for them, and they block well for the running game. They still have yet to block well for the passing game.
Yeah.
That's something to they're definitely playing for a high draft pick.
Absolutely. And they'll get one.
And you might as well address the offensive line and maybe the secondary.
Yeah. So
how about AJ Bouye?
AJ Bouye had I think it was a 51-yard pick six
It doesn't
interception.
matter. It's just fun to say his name.
Yeah.
AJ Bouye.
Yeah. I
It's
was
like Bobby Boucher.
Yeah. I wanted to get the audio from that, but didn't have time to do it. So
You lazy bum.
I know.
All the other times you get tons of audio and we don't get to play it.
Yeah, no, I have one clip this time, and we already played it. So, yeah. Oh, also, UConn. Back to the UConn thing. And
Where was the segue for that? You're like my friend Nate.
I was reading off my notes that I wrote to myself in my horrible handwriting that even I can't read.
And it says,
sometimes.
use no segue, go straight to UConn.
Just the thought here. The last UConn thought. Well, maybe not the last one.
Well, because we're going to have questions, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So, UConn somebody has proposed that UConn and UCF have a trophy game of some kind. I have seen this in numerous places.
Like the Lobo trophy? The Rebecca Lobo?
I don't know what it would be, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, what do you get from Connecticut? Like, I mean, there's oranges here. What is there from Connecticut?
Listen.
Like maple syrup comes from Vermont.
I would love to have a rivalry trophy game. That's cool crap. Iowa State sucks, but they have these fantastic rivalries with Iowa, and I mean, you have the Keg of Nails and the axe, Paul Bunyan's axe. You have all these great trophy rivalries in the Big Ten and Big 12, and not more the Big Ten than anyone else. And I would love to have the war on I-4 with USF, where I don't know what you do. We impale a heifer or whatever it would be. But, if UConn wants to step up to the table, I have no issue with that.
I guess during the Monday American Coaches Teleconference, Bob Dacko, is that how you say it? Diaco, whatever. That's how much I care. Said that he pitched. This is where he came from. This is
where did he come from?
Connecticut, obviously. I don't know.
But what's his suggestion?
Well, I guess he played and coached at Iowa, so he brings on the whole thing against Minnesota. And when I was at Cincinnati, he says we played Louisville for the Keg of Nails. At Notre Dame, we played USC for the Shillelagh. So
I like this idea. It's something you don't hear about outside of those rivalries. You don't hear new rivalries like that. It's nice to have a trophy. It's nice to put something in your trophy case. It's nice to have something for the players to play for, very tangible. They could hold it and wield it about after the game. Like
you could pee on it.
You are a weird human being.
I think it's a north-south thing.
What's with you and peeing on stuff?
Well, whatever.
I mean, that's 2 straight weeks.
That's how you mark your, that's how.
Are you still a Cro-Magnon man?
Well,
I know I make fun of your age, but I didn't know you were a Dunedain Ranger from the old days.
I am growing quite the beard.
Well, that's only because you haven't shaved in 2 days.
No shave November. It is here.
There's already a gummy bear stuck into it that he can't get out until he shaves his thing.
I don't like gummy bears.
What is that thing?
I don't know. Maybe it's some tomato.
Is it candy corn?
Like tomato sauce or something.
It's a Jolly Ranger.
Yeah, I guess so. A north-south rivalry type thing.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I would be all for that. It's cool. Add a little bit of tradition. That's what, football really is about on the collegiate level.
What can they have? I mean, a rebel flag versus a
the rebel flag is crap. I don't want to hear it. It's not the true flag of the Confederacy. Let's get past that crap.
What could they have? What do we want that's from, let's come up with something. What do we want from Connecticut? I mean, Connecticut. They have, what do they have? What is Connecticut famous for?
Winning
Besides
basketball championships.
So we'll get a basketball from them.
So no. Your top recruit from that year, if you lose, has to go to UCF or has to go to UConn. Imagine if we beat them in basketball, which we have, we get their best recruit. You know, I don't want to give up Taco Fall or BJ Taylor or any of those guys. But I'd take someone from UConn.
I was gonna. Yeah, okay. Are
you Googling them on your portable internet machine?
I am Googling Connecticut because I want to know what comes from Connecticut. Well, I mean, is there agriculture there? Is there
freedom?
Here, famous residents. Let's look at this. Oh, George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush.
Yeah, they were born there. But
Catherine Hepburn.
Are we going to trade people's mausoleums or urns as part of this trophy?
Mark Twain.
We clearly...
Meryl Streep. Phil Donahue.
Okay, this needs to end.
We can have a... We could
afraid
have...
where this is going.
We could have a trophy with Phil Donahue's head on it. Do you remember Phil Donahue? You probably don't.
He's not dead. He was the talk show host.
I think he is dead, actually.
Well, click on his name.
I'm just saying. With the glasses and the... yeah,
he's still alive.
He is still alive,
and
so maybe he would
should
even
never be on a creative think tank for a trophy.
Hey.
Phil Donahue's head, really?
He has kind of a big head.
Yeah,
I mean, okay.
Where you come up with?
Anyway,
You like to pee on things and Phil Donahue. Anyways, I like the idea of the trophy. Other people who might be better at creating trophies, like the keg of nails. Who comes up with the keg of nails?
I don't know. Just like the Phil Donahue head. The Phil Donahue statue. Maybe he went to UConn. Maybe he would donate this statue.
If you read his Wikipedia, it'd tell you where he went to school.
Well, I was just looking at his head. Anyway.
It's not an awkward statement at all.
So, okay. Do we do...
we have something for Kurt's questions?
We do. Let's play...
Man, I've missed those questions.
Let's play some music real quick.
We've had some fantastic questions from listeners.
Yeah, but nobody called us this week.
Because you keep talking about urinating on things. That has to stop.
Well, I'm going to urinate on my phone here pretty soon if nobody calls. So, no, I won't. But anyway.
Yeah, those things are expensive to replace.
Kurt's questions. All right, Knight fans, welcome to this episode of Kurt's Questions, featuring Kurt Searcy. All right, this week, Kurt asks us the number one question: how did this happen? I think we've talked about that.
Wait.
How this happened.
For one, I should probably get these in professional shows. Probably go over the questions first. How did what happen? That's an ambiguous question.
I don't know. How did this show happen, or how did whatever? How did the loss to UConn happen? Is what I'm assuming.
How did Phil Donahue get tossed into a trophy conversation happen?
I was naming the people that were from Connecticut, trying to find something.
Well, we heard that. We don't need an explanation.
Trying to find something that was from Connecticut.
All right. How did this happen? I'm going to assume it's how did we lose the UConn? Kurt, I have no logical explanation. Would like to think we touched on it, talking about how we failed in all four aspects of the game. And execution was terrible. Everything was bad on coaching. And that hurt.
Pretty much it. Yeah. And I wanted to ask Kurt this week, how did his team almost get it handed to him
by Louisville?
Yeah. What happened in the first quarter? The first
they
half
got outplayed
there. So
Jameis Winston was terrible.
Second question.
All right, moving on to UCF related material.
Is Justin Holman only looking at JJ? He caught 11 balls, and all others combined for 11.
You know, JJ hasn't got enough touches this year.
JJ is a stud, number one, and the guy, plays it all and gives it all every single time, and the others don't.
I wouldn't say the other guys don't give it all every single time. He has a greater level of concentration than Rashad Perriman.
Yes.
Brunell Hall loves to play football. You almost have to just snap his arm for him not to play. His hammy goes out. That's why he's not playing. It's injuries.
I would say I should correct.
Josh Reese.
I should correct myself there. That was directed directly at Perriman.
All right. Perryman will pick it up. I guarantee you.
I'm disappointed.
I'm sure he's disappointed too, and I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
But I love our wide receivers. JJ finally had a game where he was targeted a good amount. Why was JJ targeted more? Because the receivers, Perryman included, lit Holman down with drops.
I'm going to start a Kickstarter to get Perryman some glasses.
You got to send him to the ophthalmologist first. Make sure it's the glasses.
We'll kickstart him to get.
I'm sure he has better health coverage than we do. We work in the healthcare field.
Yeah, wow, that's another story altogether. Maybe we can have a podcast about that.
Nah, that's boring as hell.
I'm joking.
But Wharton was definitely a receiver who had solid matchups. Was tough to bring down. He runs good routes. He catches just about anything. He was really a security blanket for Holman in a time where he needed one desperately. He was like Lionel on Peanuts. He needed Wharton because other people were letting him down. I would like to see Wharton get the ball more, period. But Wharton was, consistent and successful, and Holman just wasn't having anywhere near the same success with the rest of the receiving corps.
True that. All right. So if anybody's still listening,
because
you probably aren't after the Phil Donahue comments
and urinating
and
on stuff.
Yeah. If anybody is still listening, call 407-205-7427, 407-205-7427, 405-205. I'm sorry, 407. I tried. I tried to say it 3 times. I know. I can't do it. 407-205-7427, and leave us a question. Make our show just that much better.
We thank you for your interest.
We like it. We love the questions.
We like it. We love it. We want some more of it.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go there, but okay. Well, I think that we have bantered along enough.
We have most assuredly bantered long enough.
Where's
the music?
We'll be back next week.
Is it coming soon?
It's coming.
Are you wanting me to talk until the music arrives?
We'll be back next week, and
we'll talk about Tulsa.
We'll talk about Tulsa, and we'll talk about. We'll find something to talk about.
And if you want to give us good ideas for the UConn UCF trophy rivalry,
there you go.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Right now, the Donahue one's the best idea we have. It's terrible. Please improve upon that.
All right, we'll see you next week. This was show number 15.
15.
See ya.
Thank you for listening. This is Troy Ondrizek.
And Andrew Phegley.